everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way, and this week we are going to continue working our way through our newest releases. So we're going to put this little composition together. It includes a window, one of the little mini critters from the mini critter sets. I'm going to show you how to add these vines in here and add this wall texture. So all brand new from our newest release. So we're going to need a few things. We're going to use this window. Actually goes like this window here from the window set. It includes two windows, so you get two window styles and the window box here. We're also going to need one of these little mini critters. They're all sleeping, so they're really fun to place in different places. So we're going to use the little fox. We're going to use one of the wall textures. We're going to use this little one right here. Just gives us the idea of the stone wall. In the mini flower set, I love this new flower set. We're going to use this little one right here and this little one here. And then lastly, we're going to use these two vines from the new foliage set. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start out by inking the basic image, and that would be the window. So we're going to ink that in two colors. We're going to start out with the African violet, and we're just going to ink that whole thing. With the African violet, just cover that whole image. And we're going to stamp this on the watercolor paper. And then we're going to go back over it with another color. This is the sepia, so number 45. This will give us a really nice base color. And we're just going to stamp that in the center of our watercolor paper. So that's pretty good right there. Okay, so we're going to take our brush and water, because this is always our first step, and that is to pull the color out of the line. So just carefully run your brush along these lines and pull this color out. And you can see when you start to pull this color out, you're getting a mix of color. So some blue, some of that sepia color, a really nice gray tone that's going to give us some really nice shadows. Okay, so just kind of work your way along. You don't have to get everything right now. We can come back and add some more color, pull some more color out of the lines as we go. So this is just the first step. And you can see I'm kind of pulling this color out along the sides. This is going to be darker. So along the sides of these shutters, we want to see that shadow. Okay, remember, it's just the idea of things. So it doesn't have to be perfect. One of my favorite things about this technique. I think I probably say that in every video, but it honestly is. I love things that are quick and easy. Okay, so you can see that this is becoming more three-dimensional now. So let's move on to the next step, and that's to add our little guy into the window. So we're just going to stamp him into this window, and I'm going to use my positioner. I don't want to guess as to where this is going to go. So I'm going to just ink him now with the sepia. Just ink him all up and stamp him into the corner of my positioner. So just like this. And then I can position him exactly where I want him to go. And I think I'm going to turn him a little bit and just put him in there like that. I don't have to re-ink this stamp. I can just huff on it a little bit and I can fit him perfectly in there. Okay, so now with these little critters, you've probably seen me do this. I know I've said it multiple times. Every time I add one of these little critters into an image or a scene, we come back in here and really darken the eyes and the nose. So that's really, really important that we do that, because that really pops the face out of these little critters, and we don't want them to look washed out. So let's go ahead now and pull some of this color out of the lines, just a little bit. If you notice when you stamp this, the lines are very thin and light, and that's because we don't need a lot of color to come out. So there's not really thick, harsh lines with these little images. Okay, let's go ahead and add some color now to him, and we're going to do that with a number 6 brown. It's kind of a rusty brown, so more of a reddish brown, and it's really the perfect color of a little fox. So we're going to wash this out, just add some more water to it. We want to start really lightly and brush this color in. So up along the top of his head, his little nose, along his nose. and then into his back. We want to leave that highlight on the top. So don't bring that color all the way up to the top. And then bring it around to the tail and leave it just like that. Okay, so we want to see that white tip on the tail, and we want to see this white part on the face. And let's go back in again and add a little more color. This is stages, so don't expect to get the perfect color the first time. We're going to brush this color in. It's going to take a couple of times. Always remember to leave the area where the eye is. You want to leave that really light, so no color there at all. Leave that white. That's going to brighten up his little face. Remember, even with these little critters, we don't cross any lines, so stay inside every little section and just apply the color section by section. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We can always come back and add a little more color to that later, but for right now, that looks pretty good. So I've cut a little mask of this little guy. I just stamped it on a Post-it note, and I cut a little mask because I want to add some flowers, the idea of flowers in the background. So some little potted plants and something bright and colorful into the background. So I'm going to use this little bunch of flowers from the the little mini flower set. And I'm going to ink that with two colors. So this is the 72 pine green and the number 20 magenta. And so I'm just going to stamp this in here a couple of times and maybe one more over the top. And I'm just going to ink the top again. And I'm just going to come in here above here just a couple of times, just like this. So I didn't need the green underneath, I just did the little blooms. So I'm just going to dip my brush now, and I'll start out with the green and just kind of pull that color down. And then I can just go right into these little blooms. And covering that little fox protects him so that we don't get pink all over him. And we can just pull this color out. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we can now pull this little mask off, and we can see that he's been protected. And pull some of this color down. Okay, so let's go on to the next step. And I'm going to add some curtains in here. You could do this little window several different ways. You can add some curtains in here. You can just color in the window panes if you want to, but it is really fun to try some different types of window treatments. So I'm using my number 86, and I just added a scallop to the bottom, and really this does not have to be perfect. It's always just the idea of it. So don't ever stress out about things like this. And just pull this color down. Remember, this is the same ink. So whether it's a stamp or whether you're using the tip of the pen, you're going to get the same effect. So we're just pulling this color down now from that little scallop. And you can see that that's kind of created a little valance or a little curtain. And I should have some ink still on my brush. So I can make some little creases in here. And if not, if you don't have enough, you can add some color to your palette. And really, really wash that out, and then add some little lines in here. You can also do something a little decorative. So add some little dots in here to create the look of lace. So just so fun to do this. There's so many different ways that you can show curtains. I just love doing this. And then really darken it, to show that things are white, you want to surround them with color. So that's the easiest way to make something really, really white. And we can do that with this window. Okay, so we've got a little window hanging out. Let's pull some of this color down from the window pane so we can really see that this little curtain is in the background. Okay, so we've got that done. Let's go on to the next step, and that is to add our flowers, our vine in. And we're going to use going to use a branch from the branch set, and I didn't say that in the very beginning. I missed that that addition, but we are going to use a branch from the branch set, and really you can use any of them. So just a few in here, just like this. And you know, you can do as much or as little of this as you want to. It's just kind of up to you. So I'm going to add some vines in here. These are the little vines from the new vine set. And there is a left and right, which I do love about that. So you could use any vine that you have. And I'm going to just kind of turn my paper so that I can get a good angle. And I'm using the number 72 again. And just think about what direction these little vines are going. It just makes it a little easier to use. So just keep putting this in. You can see that I'm not inking the whole thing. You don't have to ink the whole thing. You can just use the tip. So just like that. It's so much easier to turn your paper. Don't be afraid to do that. You know, whatever makes it easier for you. So let's take the other one now. So this is the one going to the left, and we can ink this one up now. And add a little direction, different direction. Okay, and you can see that I didn't add any water to the branch when I stamped it, because we're going to kind of mix this all up together. It's going to give us a really nice look if we add water afterwards. So stamp your branch and then add your foliage to it and then add the water. Going to get a really nice combination of color. So I'm just dabbing. So dip your brush, pinch it off, and then pull this color out of the lines. So, so easy. I love it. I love this part. It just adds so much, and it just kind of brings everything together. Even if you think you haven't stamped it in the right place and you've kind of made a mess of it, and honestly, at this point, it does kind of look like a mess. Things don't really connect, and you know, you've got stamped over the image, but it's just amazing how once you add the water to it, it just kind of all comes together. That is the funnest part of this technique. And, you know, don't be afraid to just pull that color clear to the outside. You know, you've got a lot of ink on your brush, and you can just keep blending. The more you blend, the softer it gets. And you can just have a really beautiful watercolor image. So, so fun. Just drag all these colors together. I think the more that you do this, you know, the more confidence that you get to just blend the colors. I really think it takes a little bit of practice, but not very long. Don't be scared. And the thing about this too is that you haven't invested hours of time. You know, most of these little projects are 10 or 15 minutes, even for the most meticulous type A person. Really, you can do a little project in about 10 or 15 minutes. So it's not like you've invested hours. And if you really, really are unhappy with it, just do it again. Just do it again. Okay, so let's add some flowers now in here. We're going to use that tiny, tiny little flower, this one, and we're going to ink it with the number 8 violet. So I'm just going to ink the whole thing and just kind of tuck it in. Stamp it 2 or 3 times and just tuck it in where a little bloom would be. And again, I'm turning my paper so that I can get a better impression. And I'm still stamping it a bunch of times. So that's still the key. Even if it's a little stamp, a little tiny one, it's still really important to get that light to dark impression. So get it in there a bunch. Even if you have some really, really light ones in the background, that's cool too. You know, you don't have to do the entire stamp, remember. You can just do little bits and pieces of it. Also cool. So many cool things about this technique. Okay, and you can see I stamped right over the window with that one. And that doesn't matter at all. So now we're going to dip our brush, pinch it off, and just begin to soften all these little lines. Just dab. These lines are tiny, so they don't need a lot of water. And we want to blend it, but we still want to see, I guess the best way to say it is the integrity of the image. Still want to see the detail a little bit, but the water just changes the shape so much that you can't tell that it's a stamp, which that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do. We want to create little watercolor paintings. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and add some color into the background, so along the wall. And we can do that with a mix of color. So whatever color you want to put on the wall, that's up to you. It could be a combination of colors too. So you can mix some colors. You can just pull this color out of the foliage. You can do that too. You just want to get some color in here. Just make sure that you've got some wall color, you know, whatever it is. Just drag it out. Drag it out and add a little bit from your palette. We're going to stamp some of that wall texture in, so we want to have some background. Oh, we don't want to stamp it on the white wall. So you can see I'm really just pulling some of this color out. And actually, I'm going to use some of this. Is African Violet, by the way, that I'm using. And I'm just going to really darken the sides of these shutters while I'm working in this color. So just really dark here. I want to see a shadow behind this little shutter. We'd for sure see a shadow under here. See how these little slats come forward? We're going to see a shadow there. And actually underneath this little box, we'd see a little shadow there too. If you are courageous, you can add a little shadow to him. Just a little bit of blue. Tuck a little bit inside his ear here. And then underneath his little body. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that wall texture in now. So this is completely dry, so make sure your image is completely dry, and it does dry really, really quickly. So let's go ahead and ink this up. We're just using parts of it, so you can see it just fits diagonally on this little stamp here. This is just the idea of things, so don't worry about getting this in perfectly. We just want to show the texture and the idea of the texture on the wall. So I'm going to ink this in the number 40. This is the number 40 brownish gray. And I've got quite a bit of area here, so I'm just going to ink these two and just stamp it right in here, right next to the little window. I'm going to take this little section here and maybe stamp it here. And then let's do this one again, maybe right in here. And so you can see we've just got the idea of this stone wall. And really, this is all you have to do. You can go in here with your brush and just kind of soften these lines a little bit. But really, this is not the focus of your image. So you're really focusing on this area, and this is just to show the texture of the wall. So let this be very subtle. Okay, that looks pretty good. We are about done with this. I'm going to sign and date. Be sure to do that. Try this little project. You'll be surprised how fun it is. And using these little critters just adds so much. You could change this little window up so much just by putting a little birdhouse on here. You could change the curtains. There's so many different ways that you can change this by using the same stamps. And then be sure to sign and date, put it on a card, or put it in a frame and give it away to someone. You are going to make their day. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you all next week.